Why did some angels leave with Lucifer? Why did some angels leave with Lucifer? This is an important question for us to ask in our overarching series that we're doing right now, which is about evil. You know, is God real? If God is real, why is there evil in the world, and why do humans choose evil? We are currently in the second section of videos of this series where we're talking about the origins of pride and evil. And in the previous two videos, we kind of started off by what was going down in heaven prior to the devil developing pride. And we finished off in the last video showing how, he was questioning God. He couldn't believe. What do you mean you're going to create humans? They're going to fail you, right? I'm your perfect angel, and I'm already wondering why, if I could be as higher than you, right? I'm now questioning you and thinking I'm thinking better than you, and your plan is next. So the test was that his plan next was that God was like, well, I'm going to create earth, and I'm going to go to earth, and I'm going to make my kids, and yes, they're going to be corrupt. But the thing is, I'm also going to go down there myself in human form, and I'm going to defeat corruption anyways, and so that they can be saved forever. But the one thing, by the way, another thing, you guys also need to bend the knee to that Messiah. And the Lucifer's like, what do you mean I'm supposed to get down and bend the knee for you? How shameful to have to bend the knee for a man looking whipped and chained and lashed and all this on the cross, which, oh my gosh. The number of times I've cried thinking about Jesus on the cross. That hurts, can I just say. So that was his pride showing, and so, then Michael, who was who was a smaller angel, not as powerful, was like, who is better than God? You're being arrogant, and Lucifer didn't take it well. And Lucifer felt humiliated, fell into shame, but he couldn't handle dealing with it. So rather than humbling himself and understanding like what Michael said to him, and this is all in love, he decides to go on to what we're about to talk about here within the courts of heaven, because we're about to talk about why the other angels left with him. Some angels left with him. If you want to know the basics of this story, the intro, where these texts came from, all of this, guys, there's an intro video in the playlist for this section as well. So it's all linked in the description box below. A lot of my playlists are linked in there that are relevant for this big series. I don't have time to keep going into it because there's so much to get through. So let's come back to where we are. So why did they leave? So obviously, remember we said that Lucifer was very charismatic, right? He's charismatic. He's like, oh yeah, the people, because he'd been the one that God had put up there. Whenever God, this is the thing about us as humans. God created within us the need of influence and the desire to follow. And so when we see people in certain positions, we naturally want to follow them, and that's where it becomes the God says, you shall have no other gods before me. He's like, something's going to become your God anyway. So you need to just keep yourself in check and keep me at my rightful position. So basically, this is what happens. The Lucifer already had a good reputation. He was known to be, wise, and he knew some of the secrets of whatever. He was a worship leader. And so he starts in heaven. He convinced them that it was ridiculous to bow to humans. So he starts to convince other angels it's ridiculous in pride, rather than humbling himself, rather than accepting the love that Michael was like, look, I'm not trying to, this is not humiliation. This is love. And again, this is how you see how he'll now do that in the world, that with Christians, he'll make Christians feel humiliated in their sins rather than loved, where they can come out from them. He'll make them feel humiliated and be in shame. This is what I'm saying. He literally is taking what has happened to him that he did to himself, and he's doing it to everybody else, right? Because he's the number one narcissist. He's the original narcissist. So the angels found this logical. But an important note here that I've written in my notes. I'm so glad I'm reading my notes. But what everybody's forgetting in the room, which is what we as humans also forget when we're all trying to think we know what we're talking about, is they are also not all-knowing. No one here is all-knowing. None of us except from God is all-knowing. So us, again, relying on our own logic is a waste of freaking damn time. And that's why the enemy is going to turn them down as a serpent and be like, Eve, are you sure if you eat from the tree? So why should they worship God with a broken body? So I was saying just now. This caused them to question if the God they thought they believed in was really the God. the true God. And so this is what opened the door for, like, you know how we have denominations now as a result of different people's interpretations? This is what opens the door to all these different gods that exist in the world. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Here it is. When you see that, oh, there's this demiurge who had 3 gods that were birthed, and the birth of this, that was this god that we see in this culture, these gods that were in this culture. This is where these concepts started, where these angels started to think, oh, maybe this idea of God is different. Maybe this idea of God is different, and we start to have all these subset gods happening all of a sudden. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's the same story. I don't know how God does it. Like, that's how I know he is love, because if there wasn't 100% love, like even if it was only 99.99999999999999999, that little crumb would have been enough. We've always been through in history. Oh my gosh. So they start to question, right? Because he's making a compelling argument. This is why, oh my gosh, this is why we don't trust in our own wisdom, you guys. This is the whole point. Lucifer made the decision to trust in his own wisdom. Now the other angels are falling for it. This created them to consider other or different, So Lucifer spoke of preserving dignity. Again, appealing to the things that we like to do as created beings, right? We want to think of ourselves as dignified. We want to think of ourselves as holy and as righteous and as whatever, right? That's why I threw to hell that. To hell with that, because if that's going to be the door to pride, I'd rather like have to circle back to dignity, like stronger dignity, than I would fall into pride. Yeah, no. He promised a heaven. And now he makes a promise. A heaven where they wouldn't have to bow to a subordinate, where their talents would be valued. Bro is deluded. Because I tell you why he's deluded, right? It's for the same reason we all are on earth. Anybody that's doing anything on earth is only doing that by the grace of God, because God gave them the gifts to do it. So when we do stuff like this, we look stupid. We look stupid because it's like God is the one who gave. By the way, guys, we will go to Ezekiel as well, because it's going to all make sense. We're going to click together. I'm just flowing in the spirit, okay? We're going to look stupid. Like, we look stupid trying to be like, God, we're going to go and do our thing. And we're like, oh, in the bodies that I created, on the planet I created, with the powers I gave you, with the face that I gave you, with the talents that I gave you, and what, like, you look dumb. You look completely dumb. Like, so that's why I'm saying that it's just funny to even, this is what I'm saying, the pride is already consuming him. And to be such an so-called intelligent, logical person, the fact that he can't see that is just evidence of how blinding pride is. But also, can we see that we've moved into the 3rd stage of defilement? The 3rd stage of defilement here, he's now contagious. So now he's spreading the message. People are catching what he's doing. Hold on, I need to make a note of this in my notebook. So we see here that, and bearing in mind, again, he's obviously wondering, again, why it couldn't be him, which again reminds me of losing energy. Like, everything here is giving loser. It's giving loser. It's giving losers. They look at somebody else, what somebody else has. They wonder why they don't get to have it. They think about things like inferiority or superiority. About people say, you think you're better than me. No, you think I'm better than you because you're insecure. That's your own problem. I don't think I'm better than anyone. The Bible says we've all sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. So he yearned for more, and he took some of the most powerful angels with him, who he'd convinced that we're going to go and do our own thing. What's this guy? And this is where I say that God's character really is true when he says he's all loving, because he could have cracked down. If he was this tyrant everybody calls him out to be, he could have just smited, the devil right there, the Lucifer right then and there. But he's like really giving them a chance. Like, are you really going to go and do this? Like, is this really what you're opting to do? Is this really your choice? Really, really? Really, 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 and this is what is similar to what we see like with the song with the prodigal son in is it in Matthew? I think it's in Matthew in the Bible, where, the father, his son goes, right? He doesn't send his son to be killed or whatever. The son comes back and he receives him. I'm not saying that the Lord is going to receive Lucifer after everything that's happened. But what I'm saying is the fact that he's left him to his devices is like, okay, it's the same like with us. It's like people are like, oh, God is so this, he wants to send me to hell. He's like, no, you chose hell. You chose to be your own God. You're walking yourself there. He's just like, if that's where you want to go, that's your choice. Don't blame me. I told you what you needed to know. That's why I read Genesis 1-3 to demonstrate to everybody in the world that we only needed to read the first 3 chapters. You're like, oh, reading the whole Bible is going to be too much. Read the first 3 chapters, you're good. If you understand what's in the first 3 chapters, you understand everything you need to understand about God. Why do we need to do all these extras? Why am I making all these thousands of videos? I'm nearly at 2,500 videos I've uploaded on YouTube because we're so hard-headed and we're so trusting in our own logic that now there's so much unpacking to do. That's why I cry to the Lord all the time. My God, I just feel like there's so much work we have to do as humans. You know what I mean? Because they were so beautiful, they felt, because they were so beautiful, they felt so deserving. Pride was born into him. Pride was born into him. They felt deserving. They felt deserving. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's like, what have you lost in, really, though? God made you, gave you everything. Like, it's the same with Eve and Adam. What have we lost? We're always going to God as if like, oh God, the fact that you're alive, the fact that you have this food in this planet, don't get on him when he told us when he told us to have dominion in Genesis 1. He said supreme power and authority. Don't get upset at him because you gave away your authority to your government and to all these things. He's like, I did everything for you. What do you mean? What else? What more can you possibly want? That's what I'm saying. This is just reveals the nature of everybody except from God. All created beings. As long as they have free will, that is. So Michael, again, calls out, who is like God? This is like a fighting talk now. Because now they're like, oh, you want to do that? He's like, oh, who is like God? How dare you? How dare you? He was ready to fight, my guy. Here's it. And I like what I saw in one of these things that I was looking at when I was researching for this. It says that he had faith was his shield and his loyalty was his weapon. Wow. His faith was his shield. Even though he was smaller and lower in rank and he's standing up against these big ranking angels, yeah, his faith in God was his shield and his loyalty was his weapon. His faith is like, I know. And it's funny, isn't it? Because they say faith shield. I mentioned that because in Ephesians, obviously, it says the shield of faith is part of our armor of God. When you believe in God so strongly, right, and you trust in him, you believing in him means that he has to show up for you because he can't be seen to be a liar. That's the point. That's the funny thing about it. So that's why holding on to faith is the most important thing, because like God's there like, well, I can't be seen to be a liar. And it's not even just that. Obviously he loves us, but then the loyalty being the weapon, you stay on that team and you're faithful. That's what I'm saying. God doesn't ask for a lot from us. So the battle starts between the brothers now. The battle starts, and the description of the battle in heaven is absolutely insane. Like, it's just like, I need an anime. I need an anime adaptation ASAP. Hold on, I'm just checking if I should do the rest of this part in one video. Oh yeah, because I knew it. We're about to immediately move on to the Book of Enoch. Yeah, so we'll do the rest of this video then. Okay, so yeah, so the battle started, and then again, guess what? It was the battle started between brothers and brothers, and it always starts that way. That's what I've realized throughout all of human history, like, and all history of created beings. Even we'll see after the Watcher Angels in Genesis 8, right? We're going to see again that the chaos that ensued because of the technologies that came because of the Watcher Angels, it all started again. The first people every time to attack each other is brother against brother, and then it's tribe against tribe. It happens every time. And again, who killed Christ? Come on, guys. We don't learn anything. And then even now, I mean, look, Joseph was killed by his own brothers. Like, come on, you guys. When are we going to learn? Like, when are we going to learn? Let me see the world of today and look, whatever. So, yeah, he realized he couldn't fulfill his old mission at this point in fighting in heaven. He realized he can't, this mission he thought he had in his head wasn't going to happen. It wasn't going to happen because he had, the reason why it can't happen is because he knows deep down that it can't happen, the mission that he thinks, because he knows deep down the truth about God. He knows deep down. So he pivoted his mission and he decided to destroy God's glory wherever he found it. He's like, I bet. I'm going to go and I'm going to find your glory wherever it is and I'm going to destroy it. So basically, say the enemy, he decides to make it impossible for us to be in the presence of God, right? And so he wants us, he makes it possible for us to be in the presence of God. Right? Oh, I might do that as a little mini video about the enemy. Yeah, I'm going to do that because there's something important I want to say about that. So his now thing is, okay, you know what? Fine. I know what's going to happen. They basically lose the fight in it. Basically, long and short of it, they lose the fight and there's a whole this dramatic about how, and there was almost, heaven had been like all this destruction because it was, the fighting was like thunder and, you know, all this. Anyways, long story short, we all know how this goes. They lose because that's exactly how this works. And he's just like, I'm going to go and steal God's glory from wherever I can steal. So he wants to steal God's glory and stop us being able to be in the presence of God. Think about that. To steal God's glory and prevent us being able to be in God's presence. Look at the world that worships everything but God. And look at our lives where we find spending time with the Father so difficult. Well, with God, though, Godhead really, but you know what I mean? Look at our lives. Look at our lives where we struggle to make time for God. He's winning. This is why I'm saying I can't live this stupid life as slaves in the kingdom of darkness. I can't do it. This is what I'm saying. This is actually the perfect thing I could read for the Lord to be like, my daughter, I hear you. I hear what you're saying and you're right. You're not wrong. You're right. You're absolutely right. This was being done. This isn't right. And I'm like, thank you, Lord, for being the only one, as per freaking usual, to show me that I'm not crazy. Other than obviously you guys, but we're all in it together. So, you know what I mean? And so he's like, this was his plan. This was his plan all along. The next thing I want to talk about quickly, briefly, before we move on into Ezekiel. Oh, yeah, we haven't even got to Ezekiel yet. Oh my gosh, we got so much to get into. I'm going to briefly talk about in the next part, him attempting Christ, because there's something important I want to point out. Actually, I'll just point it out now, because otherwise, Satan, him tempting Christ, right, with the 40 days and 40 nights. One of the things I want us to highlight as well is that he offers Christ the kingdom. Yes, probably that is better mentioning him. He offers Christ all the kingdoms of the world if he bows. Tell me this, riddle me this, right? How can he offer Jesus all the kingdoms if he isn't the one running them? Yeah, exactly. That's exactly why he can, because he's on top of all the kingdoms. This is what I'm trying to tell you guys about this world. This is the hellscape. This is why God has separate places for his people. This is why. This is why. It's because he has all the kingdoms. So he can say, of course he can say that. Of course he can say that. Because guess what? He runs the kingdoms of the earth. Unless they're under God, they're under him. Because that's his plan, to steal all of God's glory and to prevent people from ending up in God's presence. And that is how he found himself in the fourth stage of defilement, corruption, where you become totally, and it talks about how, and his light went from him. Because as this process was happening, he went from being this beacon of light, and the light was removed more and more from him. You know what I mean? Out of him, to the point where obviously became darkness, and then obviously God takes him and the other angels, and they all get yeeted down into the underworld, and it's all just, it's curtains for them. They're out of heaven. So long, see it's like a bon voyage, arrivederci, goodbye, good riddance. Let the door not picture with the good Lord's picture. Hasta la vista, kick rocks, and get the hell out of my house. That's a line from My Wife and Kids. That's what the dad said to the son. I think it was to the son, yeah. Or somebody said it to somebody in My Wife and Kids, yeah. Yeah, that was the Lord. Because he gave him a chance. He gave him all these chances. That's what I'm saying. God always gives so many chances. More chances than any human ever would. Yeah. He tries to delay things. Like I was reading this story. I was thinking, it's people like you, the reason I'm getting delayed in the promised land. Because God, I know God's out here giving chances to some people who are yet to get on board. I know that's part of it. You know what I mean? And it's so freaking unfair. But it's not, though, because it's fair. Everybody who should be there should be there. You know what I mean? But then, so when God's judgment comes through, and we're going to see in Enoch when we get there, we're going to have to take a detour quickly to Ezekiel before we go back to Enoch. so that we stay on task, because this is still to do with, Satan. But can you guys see what I'm saying? Like, God is so gracious. Anyway, we'll see anyways in the book of Enoch how God deals with things in his courts when he's the one who's stepping forth on somebody's behalf. Yeah. Anyways, you guys, if last game was later win, I'll see you guys in the next part. I hope you guys all enjoying this series. And yeah, I'll see you in the next part where we hop into Ezekiel 28, where we're talking to the king of Tyre, right? Who was Phoenician. And yeah, this is a scripture that most Christians attribute to the actual things that we, and if, by the way, in case anybody wants me to quickly answer the question while we're here, actually, I'll answer the question in the next video about, why doesn't God say more things about the devil and Lucifer? And I honestly think part of it is actually heartbreak. I think the other part of it is not to distract us from the things that are not important, because we're so good at getting distracted at the things that are not important. All this stuff is there for us to know if we want to. The important things we're supposed to be focusing on is, building a relationship with God, spreading the gospel, building the kingdom, doing our jobs. You know what I'm saying? These other things are there so that God has done his due diligence to say, hey, if you want to check my credentials, these are the receipts. These are the receipts, basically, for the long show. But realistically speaking, we should just be trusting in him and his ways and following his statutes and taking from these lessons to learn and grow, for it to strengthen our faith, strengthen our relationship with God, guide us in our lives, in our choices. So anyways, you guys, we're going to go to Ezekiel 28 in the next part. So I'll see you there. Because the life's game is played to win. God bless you all. God loves you. I love you. I'll see you in my next one.